Hi folks, I'm going to do a short video explaining how to resize your images in Lightroom for our club competitions. I will do other videos to explain it in Photoshop and also another program called FastStone Image Viewer 7.5, which is a free bit of software in case some of you do not have Photoshop or Lightroom. So let's look at Lightroom first. We have an image here that I want to submit into a competition. As you can see, we've got the image size at the top left. It is 5144 pixels by 4116 pixels. And I'm sure you will agree it is a large image and too big for our competition entries. So I need to bring up the export dialog box by clicking the export button down the bottom left, and when I click that I get this box up. I've got a number of presets here, but the one I'm going to use is a dedicated preset for 1400 by 1050. This is a landscape preset with the larger number along the bottom, and the smaller number is the height, represents the height. In this dialog box, Lightroom first of all wants to know where this image is being saved. So I'm going to save it in a specific folder on my desktop, and this is this folder here, screen sizing folder. It asks me if I want to rename it. I always use copy name, that's where I put my titles of my images, and this one's called Rachel. And then we start getting to the settings. So the file settings, what's the format of the image? We have to save our images as a JPEG. We save it as 100% quality. The colour space is sRGB, but with these letters and numbers after it. If you don't have that in your drop down, if you only have sRGB, then you can find this other form of sRGB by clicking Other. It brings up this dialog box, and if you scroll down alphabetically, you'll find sRGB there. Tick the box, press OK, and then that colour space will appear in your list, and it'll allow you to select it. Moving on, we've got image sizing. This is the important bit now. To make the image sizing work, you have to click the tick box resize to fit. Because we're looking at the width and the height together, that's the default I've selected here. You can select long edge or short edge, and depending on what you select will give you one box for your measurements, for your pixel measurements. But I'm selecting in this case width and height. So I need to input that 1400 wide by 1050 tall in pixels, and then you move on to the resolution. Images are submitted to 240 pixels per inch for all our competition entries. So that's it. I give a tick for sharpen for the screen, standard sharpening for the screen, and nothing else. I then click export, and the file is now exported. And now I bring up my Explorer and look at that image that I've just sent there. It's Rachel for number 4, and as you can see, it's 1312 by 1050 pixels now. So it obviously couldn't do 14 to get the 1050 height. It's had to reduce the width to 1312, and that 1312 is well within our 1400 pixel width, which is acceptable. So what I'll do now is I'll show you the same process again, but with a portrait orientated image. So I think we will use this one. So if I click on export again, bring up the dialog box, I'm going to click 1400 by 1050. That's my preset. I need to look at where I'm going to save it. So I'm going to save it in the same folder as I did before, so I'm just going to choose that now. On the desktop, resizing folder. There we go. Copy name. This is it's got I haven't changed the name for this particular image, so it's showing it as a TIFF, but that's the file extension. It will probably change to JPEG for the actual image. File settings will be JPEG, sRGB with the letters and numbers, 100% quality. Resize tick box checked, width and height 14 by 1050 with a resolution of 240. Everything else, tick for sharp, standard sharpening, everything else stays the same. Press on export. That's now been exported. I'll just check the my desktop folder, and as you can see, there's the image there, and there's the dimensions, 840 by 1050, which fits well within the club's required dimensions for competition entries. Hopefully that's been of help. I'll now show you how to do it in Photoshop and FastStone Viewer. So here we are in Photoshop. As promised, I'm going to show you how you save an image from Photoshop directly to your computer, where the pixel dimensions, the color space are all meeting requirements for our competitions. This is a large file. It's over 5 GB in size. It's got 44 layers, and it's also in a 16-bit mode. The process I'm going to show you will take into account all that, reducing it to an 8-bit mode image, significantly reducing the size to 1 or 2 megabytes, and reducing it to a maximum of 14 by 1050 pixels in its current orientation. When I work on my images, I will never destroy or change the master file with all the layers. I will always create a duplicate layer. And to do that, all I need to do is go into image, from the image menu down to duplicate, and you get a little dialog box come up, and I will then type in a new name for the image, and I'm going to type Rachel 8, click OK, and you notice it gives me a new tab at the top, which now contains our duplicated image. So I am now at liberty to do what I like to this image. I no longer need my original, and I can get rid of that by clicking X. I don't need to save it, and I'm left just with my duplicate image. Now the first thing I need to do is I need to get rid of all these layers and condense them into one. So if I go to Layer, right down to the bottom and Merge Visible, it's going to take a minute because it's a large file, but in essence we're going to be left with just one image, or one layer, as we are there now. Now, the next thing that we have to do is go to the Edit menu and convert to profile. Now, as you can see, our current profile is my calibrated monitor profile, and the profile that I want it to be is underneath the destination space under the profile field. Now, as it happens, this has got the sRGB with all the letters and numbers profile in, which is the right one. If it's not there, if something else is there, then you need to drop down the arrow and you need to look for it. It's generally going to be at the top, maybe in the top fourth section down, as you can see it there. Click on it, it's highlighted, and all then you need to do is click OK. Once you've changed the profile the color space profile, then you need to change the mode. Now, as I've already said, it's in 16-bit mode, and that's indicated by the 16 number on the tab at the top. And if you go to image mode and drop down to 8 bits, that now changes from a 16 to an 8. So now we've got the image converted into the right profile. We've got no layers left, just they've all been condensed, and we've also dropped it down from 16 to 8 bits. We're now in a good position now to change the actual dimensions. So to do that, we need to go to image, image size, and the first thing that I would change, rather than diving straight into the pixel sizes, is the resolution. The resolution needs to change from 300 to 240. And by doing that, it already changes the dimensions. What I would then do is change the dimensions to 1400 to 1050. Now, because the width and the height are linked by this chain icon, by changing one will affect the other. So as I changed it from changed the width to 1400, the height changed, and when I changed the height, the width went even smaller. So now we're left with a width of 1312 and a height of 1050, and both of those measurements fit well within the club's required parameters. Just checking the resolution, and that's still correct at 240. We are reducing, so we need to make sure bicubic sharpener reduction is selected, and then all we need to do is press OK. And as you can see, that's made our image significantly smaller. We're going to save our image now. To do that, we need to go to the File menu, come down to Save As. It's defaulted to Rachel 8 as the name, and we're going to drop the Save As type to JPEG. We're going to embed the ICC profile, which is sRG, with all the letters and numbers after it. We're going to embed that into the image, so make sure that box is ticked, and then we're going to press Save. You also need to make sure that the location where you're saving it, mine's defaulted to the folder on my desktop, but you just need to make sure that you're selected before you do press Save, that you select the location, folder or desktop where you want to save your image. Just press Save. We get a second dialog options box that comes up. Leave the maximum quality to 12 and baseline standard, and then press OK. And then if you go to your image, you'll see Rachel 8 there. It's got dimensions of 1312 by 1050, which is what we need. And it's as simple as that. Thanks for listening. So we're in a piece of software called FastStone Image Viewer version 7.5. This bit of software works very similar to Windows Explorer or the Mac version of the Finder. You have this tree menu here where all your folders are displayed and all your drives are displayed, and all you need to do is navigate to the folder where your image is. I'm looking for, here we go, September, and then the date, and then these are all the images that I took on this particular date. The image that I want to resize is this one here in the orange border. As you can see, it's 51 by 44 by 4116 pixels, and it's a large image. It's 21.17 megapixels in size. So the process of changing this and resizing this is two-stage. firstly let me move me out of the way. You go up to your icons, and the one you're looking for is this tree icon with another smaller picture of a tree, and you click on that. You get three options here. You get to resize by pixels, percentage or print size. Firstly, you need to print size. You click the print size radio button and change the resolution from 300, which is its default, to 240. If you remember, our images are 1400 by 1050 with a resolution of 240 dots per inch, right? So when you've done that, leave the preserve aspect ratio ticked and click OK, and that processes it. So we're actually making changes to the original file at this moment in time, but don't worry about that just at this moment in time. The file size has changed, or the dimensions has changed ever so slightly, as you can see in this preview. So the original is still 5144 by 4116, but in the preview we've got 5153. So the pixels have changed ever so slightly, the size of the file has changed ever so slightly. With the same file selected, click on the resize button again, and this time click on the pixels radio button. Ensuring that the preserve aspect ratio button is ticked, select 1400. It's automatically changed the height to 1120, but we don't want 1120 because that's outside our parameters. We need to change that to 1050. But to get a 1050 height, it's given us a 1312 width, and that is within our 1400 parameter. So our dots per inch are still down to 240 at the bottom here. So we've now moved from a 21 megapixel file to a 1.38 megapixel file, and you click OK, and that gets processed. Now the original file is still showing the same dimensions, but the preview is showing a different dimension of 1312 by 1050. What we need to do now is save that by clicking this icon, this save as icon at the top on the ribbon bar. And if you click on that, it asks you where do you want to save it. I want to save this to my desktop. It asks for a name, and I'm going to call this Rachel 6. I'm actually going to save this to a folder on my desktop called this is screen sizing folder, and I'm going to call it Rachel 6. I'm changing the save type or the format of the image to JPEG format, and it's giving me an image quality of 90, but if I click on the options box next to it, I can change the image quality back to 100. What it actually does is it changes the file size to 530 kilobytes, which is considerably smaller compared to what we were initially playing with, which is 21 megapixels. Having done all that, all you need to do is click OK. That takes you back to the save box, and then you press save. Okay. So if you then go to the desktop and go to that particular folder, you'll see our image in there, 1312 by 1050. So if you click on the view and go to image properties, this is the properties of this image, you will see some detail in there, the size of the file, the name of the file, and you've also got some attributes. So it's 1312 by 1050 at 24 bits, but the print size, you've got it in inches there, but the DPI, the dots per inch, is 240 by 240, which is what was important there in fairness. So that's it, that's how you do it in using FastStone Image Viewer 7.5. It's a two-stage process using that resample resize icon first, change the resolution, go back into it, change the pixel dimensions, ensuring that the pixels are within the required parameters, and then save it to where you want to do on your computer. So we've got the situation now where we've got our two images and we're just looking at Rachel 6 at the moment. Rachel 6 has got the right pixel sizes of 1312 by 1050, and we've also reduced the resolution to 240 dots per inch. One thing we haven't done yet is to change the colour space. It may be that this image has come from a device which doesn't give it a colour space. It may be that it's got an Adobe 1998 colour space. The fact is we don't know, and without having Photoshop or without having Lightroom or some other fancy software, we're not going to know. So what I suggest you do in this situation is, when you've got your image resized, is to open it up in another piece of software, and the piece of software is called InfanView 64. You can do this one of two ways. This FastStone Image Viewer allows you to put shortcuts within the software, so you can open up various bits of software within the program itself, or you can open up InfanView as a dedicated application as it is there. All you would need to do is click open, go to the folder where you've got your file, and then click on the image and then press open, and there it is. Now, before you do this process in InfanView, what you've got to do is go to the options menu and go to the properties and settings, and you need to ensure you go to the zoom stroke color management menu. Click on that and it gives you these various options. You need to tick enable color management set display output color profile plugin, and then you need to choose the second radio button. You don't want to use your current monitor profile, because the likelihood is that's not going to be sRGB. You want to use a custom MCCC profile, and then what you would do is you navigate to your color space folder within your hard drive and choose sRGB. Now in Windows, that is that's the address, the folder location, and all you're going to do is select the color space profile, ICM, and then press open. I would imagine on a Mac it would be something similar. And then you would also need to apply this tick box where it says apply also for images without embedded color profiles, and then set it to the same color space, which is the sRGB. So what this means is that irrespective of what profile your image has when you're opening it up in this software, or it may not even have a color profile, when you save the image, it will apply the sRGB color profile that the club requires to display the images on the screen using our particular software, which are Dicentra software. Once you've set that in the options and click OK, you shouldn't need to set it again. So open up your image. All you need to do is go to the Save As icon on the ribbon at the top. You go to the location you want to save your image, which in my case is the same location, the same folder. I'm going to overwrite the current image. So at the moment I've got Rachel 6 there. I've clicked on Rachel 6. It's given me Rachel 6 in the file name. Save type is JPEG format. It's telling me in this particular dialog box where I'm saving it. It's also given me, this tick box is ticked as, I think, as a default, and it's given me this dialog box up here. It's down as 80%. This sliding bar will reduce the quality of the save, and what I would suggest you do is move it to the right, which moves it back to 100%. Do not tick save as a progressive JPEG. These ticks there are there by default, and all you need to do is press save on your main dialog box. So because we're overwriting the file, the computer recognizes that and it says, look, do you want to do it? Of course we do. So we press yes. And what it's done is it's overwritten that file with the same JPEG, but this time it's got an sRGB color profile embedded into it, which will be recognized by Dicentra. And although this is a little bit long-winded, it's a 3-stage process. The first stage is you're changing the resolution to 240. The second stage is you're reducing the pixel dimensions to within the club's parameters. And the third stage, using a separate piece of software, you're embedding an sRGB color profile. And once you've done that, you're in a position to send the image off to Ray Hill to the Dropbox folder. Hopefully this has been helpful. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.